Every so often, we find a new word where activists try and get into the games industry to shape it in their weird worldviews. So today, I'm going to share with you guys a rabbit hole that I went down in the last 24 hours, and it's going to be fun. So to start out with, my name is Ojiro. I've been in the games industry for over 15 years. Been doing it for a while, and the games industry is not in a good spot right now. And I got sent this video last night. Yeah, it was like 24 hours ago from this channel named Will of the Fans. He talks about a particular group that is presenting at GDC. There is the Thriving Players Summit. This is the first I've heard of thriving before, but bear with me, it's great. And it talks about, whatever. It's in the advocacy track. DEI related stuff. And you got these two individuals down here for the advisors, Natasha Miller and Kimberly Vole. Natasha, her first foray into the games industry is a researcher at Square Enix. Then she's been a researcher at Blizzard, just 10 years of experience, whatever. Research. Okay, sure. And our other individual, Kimberly, PhD, doctor. She's been in the games industry for longer, mostly in the indie space. But she's been on the GDC Advisory Council, the Game Developers Conference Advisory Council, for over 5 years now. And she's also a co-founder of a place called Thriving in Games Group. So you've got TIG, Thriving in Games Group, is making like stuff over at GDC right now. So let's take a look at what this particular group is, because I hadn't heard of them before. So we go in, and if you actually look at the groups that are supposedly supporting them, there's a lot of stuff in here. You've got Amazon Games, you've got Blizzard, you've got CCP. For those of you that aren't familiar with spreadsheets, those are the guys that make EVE Online. Discord, Epic Games, King, NetEase, Roblox, Unity, a lot of stuff. So looking at this, it seems like it's a huge organization. And they've got like their about page, and they're, it's pretty straightforward. It's mostly about online communities. It's kind of like their focus they talk about. And if we look at their resources, they have some particular things that I want to go over with. They do their conferences, appearances, white papers. I looked over a few of them. They're terrible. The Thriving Players Summit that they're doing at GDC 2025. I wanted to go over a little bit about the disruption and harms in online gaming framework. Now, for this bit here, there's only one good thing about this document that there's here, and it's this ability to like hover over parts of it and have it just jump to that part of the PDF. Now, I only went over a little bit of it. I didn't want to read through 40 pages of this. I just hard pass. So I went in, I was like, okay, what is just one like keyword that I can point in and figure out what their mindset is. And I decided toxicity, of course, because, why not? I'm going to read this. You guys can just stick with me here. In recent years, toxic has come to represent concerning behavior. Oh, I look at this screen here. In recent years, toxic has come to represent concerning behaviors and anything deemed unacceptable by a player or game company. It can ambiguously refer to clever plays against the opponent, ironic wordplay, the ribbing of fellow teammates, as well as more egregious offenses. Toxic can also describe the conditions that give rise to certain behaviors or how players think of a community. It can carry an incorrect assumption of fault. In some cases, players use the term to denigrate vulnerable and marginalized people, including women, the LGBTQ+ community, and players who are, or perceived to be, of certain races, religion, or nationalities. The term fails to provide enough actionable information or useful feedback. Now, call me an extremist here, but I believe that some people are just toxic, and women and members of the LGBTQ+ community are people which means they can also be toxic. You don't get a pass for toxicity because of who you sleep with, who your gender is, like your gender, race, any of that. None of that matters. If you're a jerk online, you're a jerk online, period. There's no, you don't get to be like, oh, I can't be because I'm this thing. Going a little further here into the civility section. So civility is defined variously as a form of good manners and code of public conduct and a polite act or expression. Civility is often encouraged to improve behavior and harmful conduct online. It is desirable when people in digital social spaces give each other the benefit of the doubt to seek to understand each other's point of view. Unfortunately, civility implies a shared set of understanding between parties involved in a particular interaction. But who decides what is civil and what is not? It is important to consider power dynamics when establishing the vision of what we aspire digital spaces to be. Moreover, it is harmful to ask a person who has a marginalized identity to be civil to someone of privilege. It is emotional labor. And the example they give is the expectation for a person of color to remain calm and respond with civility to those subjecting them to racist abuse during a game is an example of civility's limitations. All right. So in general, you should be nice online in any kind of communities. And in games, if you are going to go off on some kind of racist rant in like a lobby for a particular game, generally that's against terms of service and you're going to get banned. A lot of companies have invested a great deal of money to monitor their voice chats so that they aren't like voice chats of the olden days where a great many of us would be permanently banned from those games. So yeah, there's a lot of censorship that goes into these games where you either get banned from voice chat or you get banned from the game entirely. If someone is bothering you online, you can, like, there's different things that you can do. Number one, you should just mute and block that person. That is the fastest fix to any kind of issue online is you just say, I don't want to deal with this person. It doesn't even have to be that, you know, it's some racist rant. You could just not like their voice. You could not like that they're using voice chat at all. And you're just like, I actually just don't want anyone to talk this round. That I don't want to go into settings to turn it off. So I'm just going to mute everybody. You can also report those people if they're doing some kind of harassment. But the thing that they're talking about here is they're saying if you are someone that is of a specific community that is marginalized, then you shouldn't have to be civil to other people depending on the group that they're a part of. And the example that they're putting in here is like, well, oh, you shouldn't tell someone of color that they should be civil to a white person because it is, what was the phrase they use? Let's bring it back up here. It is called emotional labor. This is reduce, like you're taking your audience and you're saying, I'm going to reduce some of you to certain traits instead of just saying, this is my audience and this is like your code of conduct for expectation. Instead, you're saying with this particular, like with the few bits that I've read of this whole thing is you should take people and you should not treat them as equals. You should break them into categories and you should apply rules differently to those people based on the categories that they fall in. It is bad policy for a game. If someone is in a game and they're being an ass, they deserve to be punished for whatever they're doing. If they are breaking a rule, there should be a punishment for the breaking that rule, and that should be applied evenly. It should not be, oh, well, this person was toxic, but you don't understand. They were being toxic against an oppressor, which means that they shouldn't be punished as badly. No, it is an equal playing field. And the idea that you've got this group here that's going out and trying to advocate with what was it, the ADL, right? It was at the very top. Yeah, the Anti-Defamation League, to say, hey, instead of treating people like equals, you need to break them down into categories. Because when you are looking at making a game, which is what this is all about, this is all about making a game that is going to be commercially successful, that you can, so that you can stay in business and you can pay your people. That is something that is the core foundation of the games industry. You need to make money so that you can all keep your job. If you cannot make money, no one cares about all the hard work you did. No one cares about all the advocacy you're trying for. Nobody cares about anything because you have failed. Failure can be a great lesson to learn, but this is the wrong lesson to learn. Moving on from this gem here, I want to talk about their digital thriving playbook, right? So they've got this section here where they've got different like guides and big ideas on this like website. I brought up a couple of them to talk about. One is Casual Empires, a look at casual colonialism. And they have this section here that says mechanics like resource extraction, conquest, or exploration can mirror historical colonial practices of exploiting land and people. My first thought was like having my SCVs mining like minerals and Vespine gas and StarCraft 2 and being like, oh, colonialism. it's, it's just so, and these articles where they're like, oh, this is a playbook for you to go off of. It's just like bullet points and then it's done and it points to another article that's not even like really useful stuff. It's just like, hey, if you're building something, you need to make sure that you build it in a way that people aren't going to be offended. But dude, if you're putting in stuff where it's like exploiting, getting resources is bad, you're just not serious. They've got another in the same breath, steps to avoid casual colonialism in design, where it's talking about considering impact of it, where even well-meaning homages can cause harm if not carefully executed. Evaluate the potential. Oh, let me move my camera over here. Boop. Evaluate the potential impact of your design choices on players, regardless of your intentions. Seek feedback from diverse communities to identify potential blind spots. Dude, if you're so personally butthurt about making some kind of game about conquest or whatever, it's just a game, it just has to be fun. If you're so butthurt about it that you're having to go find people to be like, hey, is this offensive? More likely than not, you're either going to get someone that's just going to be like, no, like, what are you talking about? Or you're going to get someone that's an activist and they're going to be like, actually, yes, you need to change all these things, in which case you're going to take your bad game and you're going to make it worse. Another one is designing games for every skill level. And it's just talking about, offer struggling players personalized tips or tutorials without public shaming. And I see this, and whenever we're talking about like skills in games, my immediate thought is like Dark Souls, Elden Rings, and stuff, where it's just like, if you're just not good, you just get filtered. If you're making an MMO, sure, you need to keep as many people as you can on because you want them to either pay the subscription fee or you need them in the ecosystem to buy microtransactions. But it's just because it's in this quick format of like bullet points, it's not even useful information. It's just broad strokes of ideas. And finally, this is my favorite. You guys are going to love this. Toxic positivity and how to avoid it in games for emotional well-being. All right. Our world can be a scary, violent place to live in, particularly for members of global communities who have been intentionally exploited and marginalized. Broader systems such as capitalism and white supremacy mean that some of us navigate the world with more ease and comfort than others, which influences our emotions, our physical and mental health, and the extent in which we can seek experiences that feel truly healing and peaceful. Let's keep searching for capitalism. Capitalism, an economic system in which factors of production are privately owned and individual owners of capital are free to make use of it as they see fit, in particular for their own profit. In this system, the market and profit mechanisms will play a major role in deciding what is to be produced and how it is to be produced and who owns what is produced. This is quoting this Oxford thing that they're referencing, right? Essentially, under capitalism, our self worth is largely defined by how much we work, if our job is considered respectable, and how much money we make. Capitalism can create environments where difficult emotions, such as rage, sadness, anger, etc., are seen as inconvenient and things that need to be immediately fixed and steered towards positivity because they can slow us down from being productive. Ah, yes, capitalism makes things such as rage, sadness, and anger, whereas things like communism makes things like hunger and sadness and more hunger. And white supremacy again. Let's okay. Let's move to the next. Capitalism. Framing mental health and emotional well-being as an individual problem, as explained in previous systems of white supremacy and capitalism, create a multitude of external stressors on our life depending on which ideologies we navigate this world with. Blah, blah, blah. Given these overarching structures of capitalism and white supremacy, no. Players gain knowledge around the role that systems such as white supremacy and capitalism play in their emotional well-being. Blah, blah, blah. Filtered through the lens of how you exist in the world and how structures of capitalism and white supremacy intersect with your identities. Particularly from those who may benefit more strongly from systems of capitalism and white supremacy. Blah, blah, blah. Individual problem rather than problem that exists largely because of external stressors from systems of capitalism and white supremacy. Final thoughts. There's a lot of capitalism in here, guys. The reality is that systems of capitalism and white supremacy often lead us towards experiencing these mental health struggles in the first place. And I can say for sure that this individual is going through some mental health struggles. Let's see, blah, blah, blah. Strength without erasing the realities of how capitalism and white supremacy can impact our mental health. We can acknowledge that our work takes place under the umbrella of capitalism, while also pushing back on ways that capitalism encourages us to avoid difficult emotions and always steer towards positivity. It's so good. I didn't like this is easily the best article on the whole thing. And it's the best article because I didn't read 90% of it. But getting back to this site, if we go back to the beginning, we're talking about all the supporters. All these people are here, right? And they're like part of this where they're like, yes, we signed up. And at a glance, I was like, okay, this is probably, you know, this seems like a lot bigger than someplace like Sweet Baby, where like you had a much smaller number of people. But when we actually start to look at a lot of this, it seems like, you know, if we look at their articles, zero like, no one's reading this stuff. Like I think like I may be the only user that logged into their website today. The next page, 0, 0. Oh, where'd you go? 0, 0. Like no one's here. Let's go to the last page. Anything? No. Like there's just between looking over these articles that they're posting, which are bad, and the fact they've just got this PDF, the white papers they're garbage. I think this group is pretty much just there as one of your pretty basic DEI like companies that is going to go in and give you a slideshow, because they don't have the experience and the breadth of knowledge. They don't have. It doesn't seem like they're offering any kind of services. It seems like they're there for a company to say, "Hey, can you put us on this list so that we are considered good boys?" And if we go back, like this place started back in 2019, not 2019, 2017. So I wonder how many of these people in this here, first off, some of these places may not exist anymore. Because if these people were added as far back as 2017, you could have had a lot of people that just joined up on this list, especially during 2020 when things really started to get crazy with, you had the Black Lives Matter protests that were going on, where a lot of people were like, oh no, we need to show ourselves as allies. And that, just kind of activism just skyrocketed for a few years there. I don't think these guys actually do anything. I think they just uh, give us the gifts of, capitalism here. I think that's it. Maybe I'm wrong. I would be interested in to hear. Eventually, we'll get more information from GDC where they go and do their talks to get an idea of if they actually do anything or if they're just doing presentations. Because, yeah, this was a gift, guys. This was truly something else. But thank you for joining me down the rabbit hole. That was quite enjoyable for me. The white papers part, definitely not. That part sucked. But the rest, it was pretty fun. But that's it for today. I'll hope to talk to you guys in a future video. Farewell.